Welcome back to my channel. Now, this is a completely different video for me. It's still book related, but today I thought I would share with you some books that I have bought recently in charity shops. If you enjoy this type of video, it'd be really useful if you could let me know by giving me a thumbs up. It will just help me to understand whether this is the kind of thing that you want to see, because obviously it is a bit different. So at the moment, I'm sure like so many other people, I'm working from home full time. I'm no longer heading into London a couple of days a week. And I find it's really important to get out at lunchtime. I had a few days where I realised I hadn't stepped outside of the house and got fresh air. I think it was for about 3 days. It wasn't good for me. So I'm trying at the moment to make sure I get out every lunchtime. And I have a high street, probably about 5 minutes up the road from where I live, and there are some great charity shops. So I've been wandering into those and have found myself picking up a lot of books. Now, I think because I love shopping, and I feel like clothes shopping isn't the same for me anymore. Since Corona, since we're not able to try anything on, I'm finding it really difficult to shop for clothes because I don't want to be constantly taking it back. So I guess I've replaced that, and I'm getting my retail therapy from buying books in charity shops instead. Is anyone else feeling like that? And I justify it by sort of saying to myself, well, you know, it's educational, isn't it, reading? It's also a great form of escapism, which I'm sure we all really need at the moment. I used to pick up most of my books in the supermarket, or I would buy the odd book on Amazon or World of Books. Now, if you're in the UK and you haven't used World of Books, it is amazing. Yeah, it's a second-hand bookshop where you don't pay postage. That is crazy, isn't it? Because actually when you buy books online, other than maybe from Amazon, they're quite weighty, so you have to pay quite a bit in postage. So yeah, check out World of Books, especially if you're looking for something that's a little bit more niche. You'll probably find it there. Of course, I have got my Kindle, which I am absolutely loving. If you haven't seen my review of the Kindle Paperwhite, I will leave that linked below or up here. So I am reading a lot of books on my Kindle. However, I think I remember saying in that review that it's very unlikely that I will go to just reading ebooks. I have a lot of physical books on my TBR. Again, I have done a video of all of those books. And actually, as I was starting to go through those a little bit more, I can't believe I've just added another, how many have I got? 10 maybe? To the pile. Is it 10? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 to the pile. If I can't get my retail therapy elsewhere, I'm going to get it in charity shops with books. So today I wanted to share with you the books that I picked up in the charity shops recently. There are 9 of them. The first one I have already started reading, so if you saw my book review last week, you would have seen me mention this book already. I think the most I paid for any one book was probably £2. And the cheapest was 50p, which, what can you get for 50p these days? So much escapism for 50p. I think, sorry, I'm really waffling, aren't I? I will get into the books in a second, but I feel that shopping in a charity shop for books is particularly good if you're looking for something that isn't usually your type of genre of reading, or if it's a book that you've heard mixed reviews about but you're keen to kind of judge for yourself. If you pay 50p, £1, whatever, you don't feel that sort of need so much to finish the book if you're not enjoying it. So I got some bargains. There's a real mix of genres in here. I would say it's mainly popular fiction. There's a couple of chick lit, there's some thrillers. So yeah, let's get started. Let me show you the 9 books that I picked up in charity shops recently. So one of the first books I picked up in my little charity shop shopping spree was The Keeper of Lost Things by Ruth Hogan. Look how pretty that cover is. This is one of those books where I had read mixed reviews, but I wanted to judge it for myself. It's not a particularly long book. I think it's actually less than 300 pages. So the book is about a man called Anthony Perdue who basically collects lost things and tries to reunite them with their owners. It's quite different to what I would normally read, and I don't want to give too much away on here because obviously my review of this will be coming next week. So if you're keen to see what I think of this and you haven't already, please press subscribe. The second book that I picked up, I basically can't pronounce. It's from Fredrik Backman, who is a Swedish guy from what I've read, and it is called A Man Called Ole? Ove. Oh, we're going with Ovi. This is as it says at the top, a 1 million copy bestseller. It's actually quite an old book, so I think it was originally published in 2013, 2014 time, so it's been out for a while. I have heard so many people talk about this. You'll see that that is a theme with all of these books pretty much. Now, from what I've read, there was a stage version of this book in Stockholm. The author, like I said, is Swedish, and then it was adapted into a film in 2015. I'm not a film person, but I must say I haven't heard of this as a film, so if you have, please let me know below. But yes, so many people were talking about this, and I know it has had really good reviews, so I'm very keen to read this. The blurb on the back is quite intriguing. Apparently there's something about Ovi that is, and it just says it here, in the end you'll see there is something about Ovi that is quite irresistible, despite him being almost the most grumpiest man you'll ever meet. I think I'm getting Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine vibes with this one. Could be completely wrong, but just from the blurb and the cover, that's what I'm thinking. But yeah, really keen to read that. And next up is This Must Be the Place by Maggie O'Farrell. I've got to admit that I think I picked this up purely for the cover. I'm sure, like so many of us at the moment, I am so desperate to go on holiday. It's a first world problem, isn't it, when we're living in a pandemic, but I'm really being drawn to things that are based abroad, on holiday, have any sort of illustrations of travel, maps, aeroplanes, anything like that, and so this completely sucked me in. This was actually, according to the cover, shortlisted for the Costa Novel Award, and I've never read anything by Maggie O'Farrell, so it's quite a meaty book. How many pages? Yeah, almost 500 pages. Apparently, it's a love story that crosses continents and time zones and is set around a rather extraordinary marriage. So it does sound like my kind of thing. I just hope that the cover lives up to my expectations. Next up, another book that I have heard so much about, and that is The Lido by Libby Page. This was published in 2018, I think, yeah. And again, I've heard so many people talk about this. That again is the theme to pretty much all of these books that I've got here. So it's about two women, one recently widowed called Rosemary and a young depressed journalist called Kate. Basically, they come together to try to save the Lido in Brockwell, which is in South London. This to me really sounds like it's a book about community and friendship, and I'm all for that at the moment. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this. I mean, I'm looking forward to reading them all. This one intrigues me quite a lot, but I must say most of these are going to have to wait until next year, because I think I am, after The Keeper of Lost Things, I'm pretty much into the festive chick lit then. What number are we on? Number 5 is a Lisa Jewell book, and it is Watching You. So a bit of a different genre this time. I thought that this was the first sort of thriller that I had from Lisa Jewell. So back in the day, many years ago, when Lisa Jewell used to write more chick lit, I think I read Ralph's Party, After the Party, I think those kind of books. I thought that I didn't have any of her sort of more recent ones, but actually, and you would know this if you watch my TBR, I have a couple on my shelf that I just haven't read, so now I've just added another one to it. So at the beginning of the book, apparently, there is a murder, and obviously there starts the who done it, but also who has been murdered. I have to be in the right mood to read a book like this. I definitely won't be reading it before Christmas. I definitely want something more light-hearted, very festive, very cozy. But I think come the new year, I'm definitely going to start to sort of broaden my reading horizons again a bit. This has got pretty big font. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it's quite big font. Maybe because I read quite a small font on my Kindle. These are in such good condition. Look at this. The spine isn't even marked. Yeah, crazy. Number 6, and probably the most talked about book last year, was it, or earlier this year, was The Silent Patient by Alex, oh god, Michaelides. This is over 1 million copies sold of this book, and I think, along with Where the Crawdads Sing, I am probably the last person to read this book. The one thing I'm slightly concerned about with this book is that there was so much hype around it, and if you've watched any of my Sally Rooney reviews, you'll know that I don't always get the hype. I hope my expectations aren't too high for this book. If you've read it and you maybe were a bit worried about this, were you going to get the hype, you maybe came to it a bit later, let me know what you thought of it in the comments. I'd be very keen to know. This is about a woman called Alicia who has been accused of her husband's murder, and then she doesn't speak for 6 years, and she's living in a mental hospital for dangerous people. Then we meet Theo, who is a psychotherapist, and he is very interested in Alicia's case. But I think there might be something a little bit more to Theo. It might not just be that he wants to help her out. Very keen to read this, although also a little bit, is it going to live up to the hype? Number 7 is An American Marriage by Tyree Jones. There we go. You can see for yourself now how much I've butchered that. So this is the winner of the Women's Prize for Fiction 2019. And again, I've heard so many people talk about it. This is about newlyweds, Celestial and Roy, who are settling into their sort of married life together when Roy is arrested and sentenced for a crime that Celestial knows he didn't commit. And then he has to spend 12 years in prison. When I was doing a little bit of research for this book, I always look on Goodreads, love Goodreads. I looked this book up, and the first review that came up was from Bill Gates. He gave a good review. It was a nice, meaty, lengthy review. The only other book I've read that I have seen Bill Gates review, I mean, he's unlikely to read the chicklet that I read, was Why We Sleep. I've done a review on that as well, so I will leave that linked in the description below. I'm not expecting this to be a light-hearted read by any means. However, I think it touches on a lot of important subjects from what I've heard. And also, I imagine it's probably going to be quite thought-provoking. So again, I need to be in the right frame of mind in order to pick this book up. But I think next year this will definitely be on my list quite early on. Now we're moving into something a little bit more in my comfort zone of reading, and that is one of my favourite chick lit authors, Veronica Henry, and A Wedding at the Beach Hut. This was one of the more expensive ones. It was from Cancer Research UK. I love Veronica Henry. I also loved The Beach Hut. I think that's what it's called. So when I saw she had brought a new book out around the similar series, I knew that I had to pick it up. This is definitely more of a summertime read, as you can probably tell by the cover. I think I'll probably wait until spring, summer next year in order to read this. I'm very much a mood seasons reader, in case you hadn't worked out. So this is set in Everdeen, in Devon, on the coast, and I imagine that this is going to be great escapism. I'm hoping we won't quite need the same amount of escapism that we've needed this year, next year, but who knows, with the way we're going at the moment, it's anyone's guess. This is part of the Everdeen Sands / Beach Hut series. Like I said, I've read The Beach Hut. I absolutely loved it. In fact, I think my mum read it, and it's one of the few books that she's read. She's not a reader, but she really enjoyed it, and she read it in no time. So it is part of a series, but you can definitely read it as a standalone book and it won't make any difference. So the book is about Robin, who is a landscape gardener, who, when she finds out she's pregnant, she wants to know more about her own adoption and her birth mother. I'm thinking this is probably quite an emotional story, maybe a little bit of a roller coaster, but very feel good. And like I said, at the moment, pretty much perfect escapism. And we have one book left. This is probably a pretty lengthy video. Finally, I picked up The Beekeeper of Aleppo by Christy Lefteri. Again, this is another book that I have heard so many people rave about. This really seems to have struck a chord with people and really had an impact on them. So it's about Nuri, a beekeeper, and his wife, Afra, who is an artist, living in the Syrian city of Aleppo. And as war breaks out, they are forced to flee to the UK. Again, I think, as I said with one of the other books, I don't think this is going to be a light-hearted, fluffy read at all, but I do think that this is going to be quite sobering, quite emotional, obviously very different to what I would normally pick up and read, but the reviews are amazing. So I think on Goodreads it gets an average of 4.25 out of 5. Now, that is pretty good. I imagine that after I've read this book, it's one of those stories that's going to stay with me for a while. Here they all are. There is quite a mix in there, isn't there? Actually, not so many chick lit as what I would normally pick up, and I like that. I feel that, I know I love chick lit, that's fine, but when I go to a charity shop, I feel it's an opportunity to pick up books that I wouldn't necessarily buy at full price. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into those in the new year, probably. I might read one or two this side of Christmas, but my festive reading is really stacking up. Has my coffee gone cold now? That would be a yes. Thank you so much for watching. I realise this is quite a different video, like I said at the beginning, so please let me know if you've enjoyed it or you like this type of video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and press the bell. I think as this video is going up, I am around 13-14 subscribers away from reaching the 1,000 subscribers milestone, which sounds crazy even for me to say. This is simply a hobby for me. I just really enjoy it. To think of those 1,000 people in a room actually makes me a bit scared. But thank you so much if you have subscribed. Thank you so much for supporting me and watching my videos week in, week out. If you have any feedback on anything you would like to see me do, anything you'd like to see me review, any other book content, please let me know in the comments below. And like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back next week with my review of The Keeper of Lost Things. I should get it done. I'm being quite slow again at the moment. I've started watching Emily in Paris, and that was a big mistake, wasn't it? Because when I should be reading, I am watching that on Netflix instead. I'm gabbling on. I need to go and do some work now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again back here next week, where I will have my book review of The Keeper of Lost Things for you. I'm speaking so fast. Take care, have a good week. See you later, bye.